you're just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
Ladies and gents, what is going on? Hey, thanks as always for tuning in to another fantastic episode of the Berardo Podcast. I, of course, am your host, Tony Berardo, and today is a fun episode. I say that with most episodes because typically they're pretty fun, and then naturally, if I'm not talking about financial health or mental health, I like to talk about physical health. This episode with Osama is actually a little bit everything. I first found Osama. I'm going to butcher his last name, but I'm going to leave it in the description below. Katani? Osama Katani? I think that's correct. Osama, I'm sorry, dude. But I first found Osama on TikTok when he was doing these cool challenges that I found very intriguing, and just, reached out to him in the DM and wanted to kind of pick his brain a little bit about his thought process on, how hard it is to keep up with to keep up with a good regimen, right? Without all the pressure and everything that's going on. More importantly, just all the time. We don't have a lot of time to do all this stuff, but, when you factor in like cold plunges and contrast training and working out every day, and you want to read because you want to get smarter, and then you're told to meditate and all this type of stuff. So there's just not enough time in the day. How can we be more productive to ensure that we're being the best humans possible? So Osama and I had a really cool conversation. I think I'm going to have him on multiple times, Osama, if you're cool with that. But I'm going to leave his Instagram in the episode notes, so definitely check him out, as well as his TikTok. Again, just some really cool content there. But, it was a good conversation, so I think you guys are going to get a kick out of it. And, speaking of health, naturally you hear me talk about perfect keto. For me personally, I'm not a big fan of taking 100 pills in a day to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So perfect keto makes it very easy to implement, healthy fats, protein, good carbohydrates, because there is such thing as good and bad, right? But they do a really good job in creating products that not only are delicious, but you can just implement them into your daily routine. For instance, I use collagen that they have, which is vanilla flavor. They even have salted caramel that we occasionally use. But the wife and I put that in our coffee, which is really great. And then, of course, they have super greens, which is a greens powder. So it gives you all the fruits and veggies that you would need in a serving. So if you don't have the time to eat like a handful of broccoli and a bunch of berries every single day, you can have their greens powder. And then, of course, just on the go, they have tons of great snacks and everything as well. I'll leave a discount link in the episode notes, but if you go to perfectketo.com, use the code TheBerardo just for being a listener to this podcast, you're going to get a whopping 20%. Super exciting. Check them out. It'll help support Perfect Keto, but also help support the podcast as well. Everyone, please help me welcome today's guest, Osama Katani. Sorry again, buddy. I've had a podcast for almost 3 years now, and it's just kind of like a side hustle that I do. And it actually, funny story, it started as me like, you have an iPhone or an Android?
Yeah.
Okay, good. First, we're already friends because the green bubble says positive. But so the Notes app on the iPhone.
Yeah.
So it started off like me like doing this in my closet, like this closet. And I would have like soundboards, and I would just like in the voice memo app, just kind of like, today I learned this and that. And it was just me talking to myself, only because my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, but my wife just hated hearing me talk. I would come back and be like, hey babe, I saw this documentary, like here's my thoughts on it. And she's like, ugh. So that's why I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna start a podcast.
Yeah, good.
And then now it's kind of morphed into this thing where I have like sponsors now and all that. So it's cool, but yeah, it's definitely not something I was planning on doing, but it's fun. Amazing. I will say though, this virtual thing is cool, and I'm so glad we can connect. So thanks for taking the time. But it is my whole point to that was it's shitty to do this virtually thing. To your earlier question about the echo and stuff, I just hate that delay. Like I used to have people come to the studio, and it was obviously way better face to face. Any conversation is better that way, but.
Of course. I'm 100% a face-to-face kind of guy. Like the hierarchy is face-to-face in person, then FaceTime, then a call, and then text.
Yeah.
So I'll work my way down first before I text somebody.
I love that. Yeah, I've actually been doing this new thing, which if my friends are listening, they're probably laughing, because I select like 5 or 6 people a week, and every Friday morning or Monday morning, depending on who the person is, I send voice memos. Again, if they have an iPhone. If you have an Android, I don't do it to you because you have an Android. But if you have an iPhone, yeah, I do that. And I'll say things like, like my buddy Bobby, who's a creator, and shout out Bobby Hicks. And I'll send him like a voice memo a couple times a month, and I'll be like, yo, dude, your content, I don't know if anybody's told you lately, is fucking fire. Keep doing what you're doing. Even if you don't get any jobs this week, just your shit is on point, bro. And I've been doing that a lot lately, and it just makes me feel good because I can express to people that I don't normally talk to a lot how I feel without like the rigor of like going on their DM and going through these weird chats with gifts and shit. Like it's kind of cool to either, if you can't see somebody, to hear their voice. It's interesting. Yeah, it's helped me mentally a little bit, and a lot of them have reached out saying it's helped their day as well. So
that's nice.
Yeah, dude. But FaceTime's the way to go for sure. So thanks for doing this.
100%. Of course. I'm not great at describing myself just because like I don't. Okay, so my name is Osama. I'm 22 years old. I live in New York City. I grew up in New Jersey. And I'm just like interested in a lot of very different things. So I can't really describe myself under like a single vertical. I mean, you reach out to me because of my health series on TikTok, but like health is not even my primary background. I think I'm just a guy who's very focused on like bettering my life. And I think it's always interesting to like take that experience and try to transform it in other people's lives. At the end of the day, I feel like we're all very similar. We're all the same to an extent. So if something helps me, it's an interesting, way to think about like, okay, just take what helped me and try to narrate it in a way that helps other people. And I think I describe like everything that I do. I studied economics in college, but I'm not like particularly like business focused.
Sure.
I neither have a medical degree either. So I'm kind of a little all over the place. And right now I'm landing on like a health concept that I'm trying to work on.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I mean, it caught my attention, man. My whole background is health and wellness, and my whole podcast is about health, wellness, and social interaction. But me, I've been extremely interested lately. I was a certified personal trainer a long time ago, and then I opened up my own company. I'm a UGC creator now, and me and my wife own a date night subscription box company.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, thanks, man. So it's been fun just kind of being an entrepreneur. But the last 2-3 years when I first started this podcast, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I have a very interesting case. I won't bother you with the disgusting nuances of that. You could listen to my other podcast on that if you want. But I also just this past year I had a tumor that was found in my lung.
Wow.
Yeah, thank goodness it was benign. It wasn't cancerous, but I ended up getting it removed, and I had all these like obviously crazy things that happened in the last year that I had to go through. So it's kind of opened my eyes a lot more in terms of like having people on that, not necessarily whether they have medical backgrounds or not, of course, that's a bonus, but just talking to people more about health, because I feel like as much as I was doing on my podcast before, I was kind of like just fucking around, like talking with friends. And I've had a lot of experts on that, kind of like you. I just reached out in the DM and they came on, and I never talked to them, obviously, after that. And then that's kind of where I'm missing the boat, I think. Like, I'm kind of like putting out this content one and done type of thing versus like making that my staple, my legacy, so to speak. And I really want to focus more on that, to where I'm getting with people like yourself that even if you don't have a background, just talking about it and spreading the word and creating content about whether it's health, wellness, or social interaction, how we communicate with people. And like you said, we're all the same. I mean, in terms of like, we have different things, but we're all organisms, we're all beings, we're all people. And the more we can connect like this, I think the better. So that's really what I've been trying to do with this show.
That's amazing. Honestly, I think like health and wellness is such a key space. It's like the common denominator with everybody. Like you said, we all have different experiences, but like biologically, we're all the same. We all want the same like chemical reactions in our brain. And so that happens often, differently for different people, but to an extent, there's like huge commonalities, the food we eat, the way we sleep, and so on. So this is definitely an interesting space. And I do think over the next 10 years, we'll be like the next human innovation. I think 10 years from now, I don't know, a lot of the monetary value created like via finding solutions to a lot of health problems are going to be like a big thing.
In the next decade, yeah. Well, I mean, dude, so much has changed, right? Like just in the mental health space alone. We know nothing about the gut or the brain. but just mentally, it's so interesting. Like things about circadian rhythm, which is interesting. I just did a podcast on that, and that opened up my mind drastically. And that combined with like contrast therapy. I don't know if you ever heard of contrast therapy. Maybe not that term, but ice baths.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
yes.
So I've been doing that for years, but now that's like on a fucking tick, dude. Like you go on Instagram Reels or TikTok, every like 5 people are dunking in a plunge and doing an ice bath. And you're like, what are these fucking psychos
Me too.
doing?
I'm exactly that guy now.
You're right. But it's awesome though, because once you do it, you're like, you see so many great benefits of that. So essentially contrast training is like, it's ice baths or ice showers or cold showers mixed with heat therapy. So whether it's a sauna or a hot shower.
So actually just today, so every day I steam and cold shower at my gym by my place. And unfortunately it's out of order for like a couple of weeks, which is so saddening to me. But what I think was interesting about the cold showers thing, cold showers is so simple, right? It's just like you don't turn the dial as much in your bath. But the interesting thing there is for the amount of benefits that it brings to people, it's like largely underutilized. Like people don't do it as often as they should. Now it's like a mixture of people not wanting to make themselves uncomfortable first thing in the morning. Like I definitely prefer hot showers, but cold showers, obviously like the benefits vastly outweigh hot showers. But the most interesting thing about it is like a very simple, I guess you call it like asymmetry of information. Like educating people on the vast benefits of a very simple lifestyle change to me always interests me, because I'm like very much in the belief that it takes 10 to 20 lifestyle changes in your life to like 10x the way you feel. So that means you're 10xing the way you feel every day, your energy, your motivation, your interactions with people, the general way you conduct yourself, the kind of energy you can put into your work, your lifestyle, your family, your friends. And it's super interesting to think about like, a cold shower is going to help me pour more energy and motivation and alertness to all those things in my life. I think I saw recently, it was a clip, I think it was from Andrew Huberman.
I love
it's funny
Andrew
now that I have like a platform, I need to start being like a lot more careful about exactly what I'm citing. But from what I understand, Andrew Huberman quoted this study, I believe by the University of Singapore. I like combed through it, but the benefits of prolonged cold bath exposure, so between like 30 and 60 minutes. And they saw like the baseline of dopamine go up like 250% in the people that did it. So it's like, it's crazy stuff like that. I mean, that's like a dopamine increase that rivals cocaine, but like more natural, and your baseline levels return, your levels return to like your natural baselines, and doesn't like overly correct downwards. So there's all kinds of really cool, interesting pieces of information like that I think help people start to, cross that barrier of discomfort, like taking a cold shower, and it just ends up vastly improving their quality of life.
That's right. And, to that point, I can't find the Huberman thing just because it's only a couple seconds. I'm not like Jamie from the Joe Rogan Experience. But I will say, though, from Healthline, a small study came out a few years ago involving 20 participants, which I know that's not the study Huberman was talking about. But it shows that athletes who soaked in a pool of cold water above 15 to 30 degrees, so freezing, or below freezing, reported less muscle soreness than those who had hydrotherapy after exercising. So even just cold showers or cold plunging during your off days or after workouts, just to help with soreness. Let's say that was the only benefit. Well, the good news that people don't understand is, because obviously that's one of the many benefits of plunging, but not only will it help with soreness, but also if you are less sore, because what's the biggest complaint that people get into when they start training a lot? They go like 3 days a week and like, my upper body's sore, so I had to take 4 days off. Next thing you know, we all know this, right? If you take any days off to get back in that routine,
100%.
It's the worst. So if it just decreases soreness, let's say that was the only benefit, that alone is worth it, because now if you're less sore, which means you could train more, constantly get on a routine, get the results faster that you want to get. And that's just one of the many benefits of cold therapy. And you said it earlier, where people don't want to get into the habit of like shocking their body and being uncomfortable. What I found, especially through my years of training and doing a lot of different practices to help with my disease, I found that the more uncomfortable we get, right, and that's the whole purpose of contrast training. It literally reactivates these these protein senses in our body, and like what they call shock proteins, heat proteins. So when you're doing these saunas and these cold therapies, you're literally shocking the body to the point to where it's going to increase your immune system, and it's apparently, preparing your body for fight or flight, right? Like this is kind of where evolutionary, if you go way back, like we kind of look at like these cold movements. Think of it like when a winter was coming, right? And your body's like kind of going in this hibernation, and it has to like fight for food really quickly because everything's going to freeze over. So we have to hurry up and gather and hunt and fight. And, there's something special when you're doing these, cold baths. Like I've done 20, 30 degrees, and even just for 3-4 minutes, you get out of it and you think you go numb. You want to like wrestle a saber-toothed tiger. Like
Dude,
you're
you
ready
feel
to
like
go.
a superhuman, huh? Yeah, I come out feeling like an absolute, like just incredible. Now, two important observations there. So one is that I did, for those who don't know, I did a 30-day series of try not to be tired all the time, where every day I made one lifestyle change to feel more energy and motivation. And very early on, my biggest learning was that in order to feel more energetic throughout your day, you don't necessarily save your energy. You go out and create it. It's basically like a spend energy to get energy kind of thing. And so it kind of like relates heavily to what you were just talking about. You almost need to like shock your body into being more active and like creating more energy.
Yeah.
So I think that's so cool. And then the second one on the cold showers, I'm not sure where I read this, but like just logically it makes sense. When you're shocking your body and you're eliciting this almost like fight or flight response, your body starts focusing on like, maintaining homeostasis and body temperature and a lot of like core functions. So you can think about it both like mentally and physically. Your body's like not as worried about perhaps superficial stressors in your life. I remember I started cold showering back in college, just like on and off. And I could see myself like, if my body thinks like it's in danger, it's getting shocked into this fight or flight mode, maybe subconsciously I'm not as nervous about like a problem set or an exam.
That's right.
Now it doesn't like literally that 1-2 connection in my brain doesn't happen, but I'd imagine that like deep inside your brain, that kind of response is happening. So I think it's super interesting.
For sure. And I would even say if I had to like throw a cliff notes on cold therapy or something, I would say it's one of many ways to humbling the body. Meaning when you do things like that, it really brings you down a couple pegs, like as a human. And, the fact that you have to wait another week before the Kardashians come out with an episode isn't that big of a deal. Like it, it kind of like, it just kind of brings you down to where it prepares your body to where, dude, nothing outside this vessel is important. Literally nothing. Your family's important, sure, but your family's not always going to be here. Your friends aren't always going to be here. Your house isn't always going to be here. Like, Starbucks isn't always going to be on the corner. Like, there's a lot of things that are out of control. I would even challenge to say there's more things out of your control than in your control. But you can control one thing, and that is this vessel. So if 100%. You could focus more on like stabilizing it and preparing it for war, I think that's the best way to go. And cold therapy is one of the drivers to that.
So this whole like mental realm is super, super interesting to me. I mean, when I started that 30-day series, I was kind of
great
a
series,
friend of
by
mine.
the way, if people don't, sorry to interrupt. If people don't know, it's on, did you post it on Instagram or just TikTok?
Just TikTok, yeah.
Bro, you got to get on that reel, son.
Yeah, I will soon. I mean, it's only been, I started the TikTok account a month and a half ago. So like I'm still relatively new to the whole like this creating thing. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe you'll help me out, just like guide me there.
By the way, side note before you get into that, because I want to hear about it. Use snaptalk.app, I think is what it is. Use the link to your TikTok, put it on that website, and you can download the original video without the TikTok watermark and post that as a reel. You're done.
Interesting.
Because if you post your TikTok on a reel, the new Instagram algorithm is going to boot it. Interesting.
I see.
Yeah, I'll message you afterwards. But
great.
Yeah, good stuff. Because get on Reels, bro. Because Reels is the way to go. And it's luckily I'm on TikTok, but a lot of people need to see your content, and you need to spread it out because it's good shit. So talk about this 30-day.
Yeah, I forgot exactly why I brought it up.
Because it's a cool experiment.
Oh yeah, it was a great experiment. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, I would have never have thought like 30 days can impact my body so much. Like I see it in like the way I conduct myself, my workouts. I see it in my face, even my hair. Like you just see it everywhere, really. I was reflecting on it. I did almost like I guess they call them like a post-mortem, like journaling, reflecting on my 30-day experience, seeing how I was conducting myself differently today than I was about like a month and a half ago. I could have done this maybe perhaps a bit better as a part of the 30-day series, but like I was expecting people to like, one-off video, like see it and like use it as an idea generator for their lifestyle. But a lot of people started following on super, super early. And I wasn't expecting that. They followed on like day 1 through 30 till the 30-day recap, all that stuff. It would have been really interesting to like set some kind of system for people. And maybe I would recommend just like do it on your day-to-day life before you undergo any like physical challenge like that, physical mental challenge. Like I guess create certain metrics for you, not just your body, but like your life. So maybe a category for your mind, a category for your physique, or your like how much you're lifting, a category for like your social, how you treat your friends and your family. And then like those little intangibles, things that you can't quite quantify, just journal out like what your general like energy and what your general intentions are in those categories. And then see like just 30 days of improving your physical lifestyle and feeling more energy, and see how it changes each of those intangibles. Because like, yeah, you can, I lost a little bit of weight and gained a little bit more muscle. But I was also just like kinder to my siblings. I was like more willing to just like, I don't know, pick up trash on the street. I was more willing to like clean my room and stuff like that.
So mentally just overall clear.
Yeah. It's just like, I can't quite describe it, but it's just like you said, I think it's that like humbling of the body, that I'm going to write that down because that really like struck a chord with me.
It's all yours.
Thanks. It's going in my bio, bro. That's it.
I fucking love it. And then also, so for people who don't know, so it was 30 days, but every day you were doing something new, or it was consistently the same thing every day?
Yeah, I mean, so this was like I guess like perhaps in my eyes, the one downside as like an experiment. I was doing 30 lifestyle changes every day, and they would stack to the previous. So the first day I did one change, the second day they stacked. Now what I tried to do, the best I could do is like order them in a way that was like both easy to do, so it was convenient, so things stacked, but also second, try to jump to like different health categories in an effort to not like, overestimate the confounding variables. So, I mean, a lot of people in the comments, which like is a good criticism, I guess, but I mean, my goal wasn't necessarily to just like test each experiment individually. I just wanted to like make my life better over 30 days. And most of these are generally pretty good, like obvious changes that I did. So day 1 was 15 minutes of sunlight. And then as soon as I wake up, that's a big Andrew Huberman thing right there. Yeah. And then I think it was like either day 3 or 4 was 15 minutes of stretching in the morning. And so I was like, okay, I'll just like do both together in the morning. Now, which one is like completely improving my morning routine and making me feel super energetic? I don't quite know, but they're both generally good changes. And I felt way better. So I was less concerned with like which of these changes are generally improving my lifestyle, and more so just like, okay, has the quality of life increased? But that also brought up like an interesting thought. A lot of people want to like pinpoint the 3 things that's going to happen or that they're going to do to vastly improve their lifestyle. But that is not the way it works. That was like possibly one of the biggest learnings I've had over 30 days. Feeling good, it takes effort to start. Obviously, it takes you being like very deliberate and intentional about it. And it requires you to like we were talking about at the beginning, to put your body through like some systems of shock and stressors. But like, over time it gets easier. It becomes almost second nature. One of the most uncomfortable changes I've had to make, just because it took so much like mental energy to follow through with it, was chewing 20 times before I swallow. It's weird. It's a really weird one. It took me a while to get used to, but now I find myself chewing up to the point like the food gets like pretty watery and I swallow it. It's had interesting benefits. So it's never going to be 3 things. It's going to be like 20 things that you do to change your lifestyle.
That's right. And the chewing thing is interesting to me because that's one thing I had to do because of my Crohn's disease. So the whole idea of Crohn's, if you don't know in a nutshell, is there's a lot of different negatives that come from it. But with me in particular, my case is not like if I have a thing of chicken wings, I have to go run to the bathroom. That's most cases. For me, it's quite the opposite. For me, no matter what I eat, I don't really know what it is, but something happens to where I get blocked up, and eventually it'll just get to the point to where I get so blocked up, I get extremely bloated and I have to go to the hospital and they pump me out. Oof. So it's kind of gnarly, but the one thing that I found that helps, I'm plant-based now, and that's helped a lot. Going hardcore carnivore to to now fully plant-based. And I do chew. I don't know if it's 20, but to your point, I just chew until it's mush. And it was so hard for me to get used to that, A, because it's fucking disgusting. But B, one thing I did realize, though, that was kind of a positive from it was the, I forget what they're called, but like the cheek glands that you have, the technical term for it, I forget what it is. But that's where most, aside from your tongue, that's where most of the flavor metrics come from. So when you're chewing, your cheeks, you can actually taste it more. And I don't know if you noticed that, but you can actually appreciate the food more versus, it's not like when you swallow it, you could taste it on your throat.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? So it's all cheeks and tongue, which I found very interesting.
Yeah. Is it that just like the longer it's in your mouth, the longer you can taste the food, or is it just like I think the actual rate at which you taste?
I think the actual glands, some sort of sensory glands are located on in the inside of your cheek. So if you're chewing it, like you ever chew something, then like put it on your right side, like, and then if you just let it hold there, you could taste it more. Like a lot of people think it's the tongue.
You know what? Anecdotally, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
No. And I know exactly what you're talking about now because I love eating sunflower seeds. I just like grew up eating sunflower seeds 24/7. And I love like the David's Ranch sunflower seeds. Yeah. And so the way I eat it, I'll stick like 50 in my mouth and like hold it right here in my cheek and then like move it. It's like a whole elaborate operation going on over there to eat those seeds. But that's interesting. It almost it's just like naturally I'm putting so much like flavor in my cheek and holding it there, but it starts to sizzle my jaw a little bit.
It's so true. Yeah, dude. But yeah, dude, there's so many great benefits of doing these little steps to make us healthier because I don't think people understand making these changes. I even find it more interesting when I do these changes, how hard it is to break it. I find interesting. But then what's even more interesting is once you are in it, whether it's working out, cold plunges, eating right, whatever, it's hard to get out of it. I don't, like for instance, I'm plant-based, right? So I don't think it's because plant-based is better than a steak. But if I have a steak, it doesn't give me the same jajou as it used to. Right? But I don't know if it's habit or if it's internally there's some type of like mechanism, that our body needs to be active and needs to work out, so we crave it more. Because when you have like shitty food at a restaurant, you don't feel good. That's just a fact. Yeah. Like doesn't matter how healthy or unhealthy you are. If you go to any restaurant or fast food joint, immediately afterwards, mentally you're fucked up. Physically, you're just, you want to take a nap and take a dump. Like that's not the right way to live, right? But when you eat healthier and you exercise and you go out and you get that circadian rhythm like you were talking about where you hit that 15 minutes of sun in the morning and that vitamin D gets up in you, and man, something happens to your DNA where it's like, this is what it's supposed to be.
That's so true. And people don't understand that. I mean, like, so what you're saying, like when you're so deep in a habit, it's hard to break, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit. That's right. You're absolutely right. And I think it's definitely a function of both of those things that you mentioned, both of those mechanisms. It's just like it's a comfort and routine thing. And I suspect it's probably also like a biological thing. It's just what you've, conditioned your body to expect. What's so interesting is that I can see that happening both on like a mental and physical level, which is like, I think like the actual breakdown of what we just talked about. So that routine thing is probably a mental thing. And it's just like you've timed your body as to like when it can expect certain things. And then the physical thing is just like with certain, the way you intake your food, what you intake, the time and all that stuff. So just anecdotally, at least I was a huge coffee person in the morning. Now I've since switched to matcha, but still like that whole routine of sitting in a coffee shop in the morning. When I first started doing it, like in college, it was just such a treat to myself. Like I loved doing it. It was a great vibe. It was a great energy. It was very grounding, very calming, all that stuff. But now, interestingly, I hesitate to call it a crutch, but it's almost what it is. It's a heavy reliance on existing and just being at a coffee shop in the morning, regardless of what I'm drinking, whether it's coffee or matcha or a tea or anything. I've created like this habitual mental reliance on going to a coffee shop in the morning. And so whatever it is, it could be, if I sit at a library in the morning, it's not the same thing. And so like, there's this really specific way we train our brains. It's like, this is where I'm going to exist. Now that same like power and intensity and like the way our body reacts to changing up those habits can either work for our benefit or work for our detriment. It's exactly like what you're talking about. So it takes that first, let's call it like 30, 60, 90 days to really break the old habit, instill a new one. But once you've instilled that new one, it like works for you. And it's kind of amazing. I've been working out consistently now for a little while. I've been eating a lot better for consistently now for a while. And I just I really can't do it any other way. It's almost like, here's an example that perhaps more people will relate to. I mean, maybe, I don't know how old your audience typically is, but so I'm 22. Most of my friends are like heavy power TikTok users.
Right.
And so was I for a little while. We all have this thing like, oh my God, I spent way too much time on TikTok. I spent way too much time on Instagram or YouTube or Netflix this week. I'm going to delete the app. What's interesting is there's almost a physical response stopping me from deleting it because I get an intense pang of FOMO. I don't know what my day is going to look like without it. It's a bit scary. But now that I've since I set really harsh time limits on TikTok and Instagram, Netflix, YouTube, all that stuff, I'll go onto YouTube now, or I'll go onto Netflix, or I'll go onto TikTok. I'm like, oh dude, this is not fun for me anymore, which is so powerful. And could not be farther from how my brain existed in relation to these external stimuli just 6 months ago, or even just a month ago, frankly. What you're talking about is so powerful. These habits and the way we condition our body can either work so for us or so against us. And it's just can you bring together the discipline over 90 days to change it? And that's it. Your body's on autopilot, but in the right direction.
Yeah. And there's just we're learning so much more about how the human brain works that a lot of the things that we think we needed or it needed, you talk a lot about coffee. So that routine that people get into, a lot of people don't understand that obviously you're getting the caffeine from the coffee, but if you just I tried a fun experiment about 6 months ago, and I didn't tell my wife about this until about a month and a half afterwards, but we ended up doing nothing but Lavazza, which is a great coffee. And that's how we do our espresso, but we did decaf. And I put that in my drip without telling her. And it was fresh beans. And I grounded it myself. And it was all decaf. So obviously decaf is substantially less. It's not zero, but it's 7 milligrams per cup or some shit of caffeine.
Yeah.
So it's about 180 grams less. And we did that. And I knew there was effects. I felt it. She did not. She said nothing for a month. And then after about 4 weeks, I was like, hey, did you know that I've been doing decaf? She's like, yeah, that's funny. And I go, no, seriously, it's decaf. She's like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, look. And I show her the cabinet and the packaging, because I kept the packaging. I knew she was going to call me out on it. And I was like, this is the packaging. And I put it in a Tupperware. And I was like, that's it. Decaf, Lavazza. And she's like, motherfucker. She's like, I got to tell you, I didn't tell the difference. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because you mentioned a little bit of it before going to the coffee shop. So check this out. A study from the Journal of Environmental Psychology in 2018. Out of all the caffeinated beverages in the world, researchers choose coffee as the strong aroma. The effect only occurs if the person is experiencing the sweet, earthy odor of coffee as an existing relationship with the drink. Meaning, the findings of this study suggest that smelling the coffee gives the regular drinkers of coffee a cognitive boost because their brain expects the morning cup of joe to stimulate them. So this study essentially is saying this person, 20 people, 30 people, go into the coffee shop. Just by smelling the coffee, automatically their brain's like, we're about to get coffee, boys. Let's do it. And cognitively you get boosted, but you're not sipping it yet because your brain is stuck in this routine. So what does that tell us? That tells us we don't necessarily need coffee. We just need to produce that part of our brain to increase our cognitive ability. So it's really interesting once the body, is capable of these types of things and we're aware and conscious of it, we can kind of duplicate it like the decaf scenario, like this scenario. Even if you just keep beans at your house and smell it, a lot of studies say that, again, that boosts that cognitive function versus having the caffeine and all the negative things that come from caffeine. Gnarly.
That's amazing. I mean, everyone hears in school studies the placebo effect and whatnot.
Sure.
But that's a really interesting application and really interesting results.
So I don't recommend people out there listening that you try that with your wives because my wife is very nice and it might not work out well if you try it anyway. But it was, it was interesting. I got to admit though, what the hard part for me was afterwards, I had the Lavazza espresso next to the decaf. And after these 30 days, I was like, I could just keep it going. I'm at a nice I'm not fiending the coffee anymore. So I
Yeah.
can stop it right now. I could switch to tea or matcha, or I could just stop drinking coffee. But man, I started drinking it again.
See, this is early on in the 30-day series. I think it was day 3. I switched from coffee to matcha. Now, the interesting thing is, so I've still had coffee on and off since then, but it's taken like an entirely different function in my life. I think in just 30 days, it's changed from something that I was heavily, I'll say like addicted to it. Frankly, at the very like lowest end of the spectrum, it was a heavy, deep reliance on it. I was definitely addicted to it. Switching to matcha in general is just like a really good strategy for eventually waning off caffeine if that's like your desired end state. It definitely like flattens out the caffeine release in your body, so you don't experience a lot of those midday crashes as bad. But interestingly, what coffee is now started to become is almost like a treat that I give to my body and particularly my brain. So if I'm ever in need of like an intense period of motivation or perhaps even creativity and inspiration, I'll still have a cup of coffee, like maybe like let's say 1 or 2. And almost every time I feel like my brain is on, in a good way, like on overdrive. It's really, really cool. So turning like matcha for me is given like a very good baseline level of caffeine. So I'm not like, I don't crave it the way I crave coffee, but I still have it. It's not as much caffeine. But now like coffee is a treat that I award to my body. And
that's great.
It's really weird. I still sometimes catch myself. I like to bike around New York pretty often. I was passing by a La Colombe. I really like their draft lattes. And I felt like almost an intense reaction in my body. I was like, I really, really want that latte. It's always interesting to like catch those things. It's exactly what you're talking about. I'm not relying on caffeine anymore. I'm on coffee actually.
Right.
If I quit my
Still
matcha, it'd be a problem. Yeah. Yeah, but your body just like, it snaps and you're like, oh dude, I really, really need it. And you might even conflate that feeling for others. Maybe I'm just like thirsty or I'm hungry. But for some reason, coffee for my body just been like the most clear input to output thing in my life. Like, when I eat food, I'm satisfied. It's good. Like it releases certain signals in my body to like stop being hungry, but nothing quite starts my body off like coffee. You just like, you feel it in 20 minutes. You feel amazing. You feel great.
Especially like empty stomach in the morning, like forget it. Like you're ready to go. Like you're ready to take on the day. But yeah, you do get immune to that type of stuff. And you know, I don't know if there's anything bad with getting used to those type of stimulants. And you know, it is good, but I think that to counteract a lot of the negatives of caffeine, you know, because you got to remember the pounding that your heart is taking, right? So if your heart isn't strong enough, similar to like contrast therapy and cold therapy, things we've been talking about, if your body isn't prepared to handle those stimulants on a daily basis or monthly basis, however you do it, your body's not going to last. I mean, every body has a shelf life, literally. And, you know, whether it's 60 years, 80 years, or, you know, 10 days, your body's going to expire soon. And the more stress, pain, shitty stuff you put in there or put up against it, that's going to dilute those days that you have ahead of you. So I think if you could prepare your body a little bit more and be healthier, I would even challenge to say, I don't know if there's a study out there, but I'd be interested to know if there was a study of healthy people drinking caffeine versus unhealthy people drinking caffeine, and to see the correlation maybe in a year or 2 years, what it does to the body. Because I can't imagine an unhealthy person having caffeine and, you know, eating shitty every single day. I can't imagine that caffeine is going to be beneficial.
Right.
However, what you're talking about is sometimes it helps us cognitively to get shit done. Maybe, you know, sometimes you do a shot of espresso and then go work out. Well, now obviously that caffeine doesn't matter, right? Because your body's burning off those calories and getting rid of that excess energy. But if you're just standing at a desk in a dorm and you're just hyped up on caffeine.
So by the way, it's slightly unrelated, but it reminds me of something. It's something that I kind of want to start pushing even on my own account a little bit more. There's like, I talked about the health categories, or maybe I didn't mention it, but like I think of every health or lifestyle change under one of 5 categories: is diet, sleep, exercise, mind, and environment. And then within those like lifestyle changes, you have let's either like something to do, so behavioral change within those 5 categories, something to buy. So this is like a product or a lifestyle choice you'll invest in, like changing your food intake. And the third is kind of like helpful content to consume that almost improve your mental model on your daily health decisions. So the reality is that like in the 21st century, we're bombarded with so many different products, lifestyle choices, everything, 1,000,001 things. And a lot of those choices, even though we have like the appearance of choice, for a healthy person, most of these things are not like, they're almost stacked against our health. So
That's right.
what you talked about, like thinking about what we're putting in our body, it just reminded me of, I've started to become really interesting in like, both for personal reasons and to like narrate to my audience, are mental models to improve the way you make daily health decisions. And so there's a few of them. Like one of them being, I mentioned this on one of my previous videos, your body is like, I mean, I don't know if like scientifically this is exactly the way I'm saying it, but your body is literally made up of all the things you've eaten since you were born. I can't, like when I start to think about, okay, this apple that I'm eating is my body is going to use some of it to like grow or replace dead cells, or it can use a can of Pringles. Like I'm not sure I want a can of Pringles to like go into my bicep, you know?
That's right.
So that's like an example of a mental model. I think that when you like kind of convince people of, or you narrate to people, is probably just as useful as like very clearly telling them like, this is a behavioral change you should make, or this is a product that you should either switch out in your lifestyle. So,
Well, and you know, that way of not to interrupt you, sorry.
No.
But that way of thinking is not it's not far fetched, considering look at what water does to our body. You know, water to some people, it's just a beverage that keeps me cool. Nah, man, that's literally like we're made of 70% water. So giving it to your body, it's gonna on a cellular level, it's going to literally fuel this massive organism. And you know, if that can do that, if water could do that, what's to say your food can't do that? And studies are showing that it can, in fact. And you know, when we're putting in these weird substances, that's why you look at like, you ever Google a picture of like 1950s U.S. population at the beach, or 1950s people at the beach?
No, what's that?
You should. 1950s beach picture would probably be the easiest thing to Google. It's in the 1950s. Everyone's in these god-awful swimsuits, right? We know what those are. But every single person is beautiful. They're gorgeous. They're thin. They're
incredible
sexy.
jawlines.
They're slender. Gorgeous jawlines. Like fucking Superman jawlines.
Yeah.
And then you look at like 2020.
Yeah.
So in that 50 some odd years, 70 years, what's changed? The
Right.
only thing that's changed is food, what we put in our body.
100%, dude.
That's the only
Man,
thing.
it's crazy.
So it's wild to think that, okay, so then our body is kind of taking on this foreign substance and all these chemicals. So then once we consume it, well, now our body doesn't know what to do with it, right? Because it's foreign. You know, for hundreds and thousands of years, depending on what religion you believe in, 100,000 years, our bodies have evolved to this thing that we're looking at. It's not meant to take on these chemicals and these pesticides and all this other bullshit. So the more we're putting that into our food, into our body, and alcohol and all these different things, caffeine, all this stuff, it's changing our bodies on a cellular level. And our bodies are trying to evolve and adapt, but it's so weird, right? Because there's nothing on this planet that has to evolve like this. Like, it's not like monkeys are in the jungle dealing with this issue of like, you know, oh, we got to make sure we're staying off fast food. No, these fucking things have eaten the same way for millions of years. So it's like,
so
you know,
you're 100% right. And that's another like mental model that I like to think about. It's not exactly the Lindy effect, but I like to just like derive this mental model from the Lindy effect. From what I understand, the Lindy effect is basically if something's been around for a long time, you can like bet that it'll be around for an even longer time. That's right. So the way I think about it is like, okay, if humans have been doing it for a super long time, I mean, 1,000 years is not a long time. I'm talking about like 10,000, 100,000 years. If humans have been doing it for, like if a caveman did it, it's probably okay for your body. So now that's
except
not to say
meat,
that,
except
eating
raw meat probably isn't the best way, but
yeah, exactly. So it's like, again, it doesn't completely cover the picture. That doesn't mean that like every human innovation with regards to food is bad, but considering that like our dietary choices often feel so overwhelming just because like things are stacked against us the way it feels. It's like a very helpful mental model that I think will take you like 40 or 50% of the way, which is probably a lot like farther than just the 0% of understanding that I have of like today's food standards. But like if a caveman ate it, with the exception of raw meat, it's probably good for you. So if you think about it, it's just like eating like vegetables the way they came out of the ground, like just instead of eating For example, actually, funny enough, I'm curious to see what your opinion is on this. And I did this mostly for anecdotal reasons, but like I cut out most bread in my diet, and it's helped a lot. Focusing on just like simple foods, non-processed in the way that like bread doesn't grow out of the ground. Yeah, like wheat does, and we turn it into bread. But just try to eat something that is as close to the version of it that came out of the ground or off a tree or something like that.
Totally.
That to me is like the way I interpret like the Lindy effect within the function of like how I make day-to-day dietary choices, health choices, and in general.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. And, that kind of goes back to what we're talking about with social media too, right? Social media and TV and, all these things that are keeping us preoccupied. It's keeping us from doing things that our bodies are meant to do,
Right.
and you look at like the human evolution and where it's kind of going. It's sort of terrifying for a lot of reasons. And I think the big reason for me in particular, just from an outside perspective, looking at these zoo creatures called the human race, is you look at these folks and some people are like, they're not caring about their body and they're accepting for who they are. And no matter what you look like or what you eat or what you identify as, like whatever, like you look at yourself as if you are who you are and this is you and that's it. Well, that can't always be true, because what if you're Ted Bundy? What if you're not a good person? Should they accept who they are? No, I think it's important to note that not everybody's perfect. In fact, no one is perfect, and we all have flaws and we all have improvements, and identifying those flaws and improving on them is more motivating than showcasing those flaws. And I think we're in an interesting time to where we're kind of like showcasing everything. It's creating this laziness, which is like people are less
100%.
focused more on your health, and they're more focused on like, well, it is what it is type of mentality.
Yeah.
And that type of shit is going to make us, not prepared for those saber-toothed tigers. Let's put it that way.
100%.
Like, we're not going to be able to handle those negatives, which is why I love contrast therapy, is because it does humble the body. And I feel like the lazier we get, the more cocky we're getting, and it's scary.
I mean, just this situation becomes so multifaceted because like, I think we've lulled ourselves into a self of like acceptance where just like acceptance. So, as a society, we've started like accept things that we should have accepted a long time ago. That's right. But within that like wave of acceptance, a few things have gotten like passed along that I don't think should have. So for example, just be like, yeah, man, like eat whatever you want, or like just live your life. Like put whatever you want in your body. It's just like, I don't know. It's
the
a bit
YOLO
complicated
mentality type
point.
stuff. Yeah.
The which mentality?
The YOLO.
Yeah. Especially the YOLO mentality. Yeah. Like I could not agree more. Like, yes, you only live once. So like take care of it, but like focus on the things that you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
It's almost like this nothing matters, so everything matters kind of mentality. I mean, like because you live once, you better be super careful about what you put into your body, how you make it count, all those things.
Yeah. I have this conversation because, I'm in my mid-30s, and I've bought a couple houses here in Florida and sold them and opened up businesses and things like that. And, a lot of my friends are like, I don't want to say envious, but, they ask me for advice and I try to do what I can. But the biggest thing, if I was to be a financial advisor and to look at people's issues, a lot of people are complaining about money and that inflation this and inflation that. And I think there is a level of that. But the world has always, gotten more and more expensive over the years. Back in the 1950s, houses were $30,000 a year, or $30,000 for a house, right? Now you can't get a house less than $700,000. So, and it's not going to go down. It's always going to go up. And for that, minimum wage has increased, and, people are getting paid for being a TikTok influencer. Like there's positives, right, to all this stuff. But I think the issue that we run into is because things continuously get better on this planet, no matter what people say or think, things have gotten vastly better than what they did 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago.
No doubt.
Like things are a lot better. Like we used to hunt other villagers and kill their women and take their children as slave. Like, so I think things have gotten better. With that said, though, people always want to blame everything else for their financial issues, and I think it's an easy way out. Versus if you make $35,000 a year, you could live. You're not going to have the new iPhone. You're not going to have the Tesla Roadster, but you can live. You can survive. And if we can get get out of like having things as a whole and just
Mm-hmm.
taking care of like our bodies and the people around us and the people we love, I
Yeah.
think that's where we see true happiness. And that's one thing I've found with focusing more on your body and humbling yourself a little bit more is if you could get away from all the shit outside and you could focus more on like what's inside your four walls, then you feel a lot better because you don't have any stress. You don't have to worry about anything, you know?
100%. Dude, I love conversations like these. This feels incredible. First of all, I feel like I'm learning stuff, which is great. And I love
same,
bouncing off, especially about like health. It's just such a
It's a fun
relatable
topic.
100%.
Topic, yeah.
So here, I'm curious. This is something that I've kind of been like thinking about mostly now. I've made a lot of physical changes to my lifestyle in an effort to like feel more energetic and motivated. But now it's like a feedback loop with like the mental side of things. And you kind of alluded to it when there's so many interesting, both like, I'm not just talking about like the way your brain works, right? And like chemicals and your body priming itself for certain things, like the coffee aroma example.
Yeah.
But also just like from a purely subconscious, mental, even like perhaps a spiritual level. So things like meditation and whatnot. And obviously your mind and body are infinitely connected. Like your body, your brain sends signals to your body and your body sends signals to your brain. It's just like they work off each other. But I'm curious, like, how do you think about like the line between physical improvement and mental improvement and like how they conjoin together?
It's a good question. I mean, I have some interesting thoughts on that. The biggest thing I would say is more importantly than physical health and mental health, I think the studies that are coming out with the gut and the microbiome in the gut, to me, is way more fascinating because I think in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, we're going to realize that the brain is very important, obviously. But in terms of signals, I think the microbiome sends more signals around because the brain is telling us what to function, what to do. I think it's all connected from mind to gut. If you don't have one or the other, you're going to have some problems. I think if you have a very sound mind and you're taking care of your mental health, but you're in, shitty physical health, then I think your mind is going to suffer and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how they're all connected.
Immediately when my brain goes, again, I'm very like oriented. Okay, what do I do? Like, what's actionable? What's simple? Like, what can I do to fix it? I think that's just like what has lent itself to, I think, of my content doing very well. People find it very relatable and actionable. So like, I'm confident. I don't know what it is, but I'm confident. There's like maybe 3 to 5 lifestyle changes I can make to absolutely completely rehaul the way my gut interacts with the rest of my body. I'm confident. And I did come across a lot of interesting content about like the gut. It really is. It's just like almost like it's
like a second brain.
Yeah, exactly. It's inside of your body, and the amount of like bacteria and organisms that sit in your gut and inform a lot of the bodily functions that we have.
It's gnarly.
There's something there. And it excites me. That's what I meant to say. It excites me to think about this kind of stuff. It doesn't overwhelm me anymore because I know that there are 5 things that I can do that'll probably change it. Like I said, I don't know what they are, but
that's right.
A few cursory searches.
And I think if anybody could take anything from this, as we wrap it up, I think the big thing to take from this is this seems overwhelming. It seems like a lot, new habits in 30 days. It's a lot. Like taking care of, your mind and your gut and your body and not eating right. It's a lot, right? Yeah. Like not having caffeine. It's a lot. We get it. But here's the thing. It's only a lot because you're filling your brain with pointless shit. And that's what I tell people all the time is it only seems like a lot when I have these conversations. I talk to people and they're like, oh man, this is just, it's way too much to handle. I can't. Well, let's say if your brain, right, you only have like 1,000 points of bandwidth in here. Well, if you're spending 900 of those points on Hulu shows, TikTok, this and that, then yeah, of course, you're not going to have room for cold therapy and for eating right and for health. So you have to make room for other stuff. Like your house inside your head is only big enough for one family member, right? Like you can't have all these different family members coming and hanging out and visit because you don't have enough room. So you have to fill 100%. It with some good stuff,
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I always empathize with people. It's just like, listen, foregoing junk food is hard. Trying to like wane off caffeine to an extent is hard.
That's right.
Working out every day is hard. Maintaining like an active lifestyle is hard. And it frankly, a lot of those things, it sucks. But what sucks even more is just like being fucking tired all the time. It's painful. It hurts. And it like, you just got to like weigh the pros and cons, decide what your priorities are. And for me, that priority has been to just like feel more energetic and feel better about my body. And so in that light, and with a lot of the other mental models that we spoke about, for me, it's just like the decisions become so clear. I want to live a long, healthy life. I know that on the other side of like this veil, like my body knows that TikTok is bad for me and like Instagram is bad for me, but just like I can't wane off of it. But knowing that, you know, there's like comfort on the other side for me motivates me a lot.
Being conscious of it and being aware of it. Yeah.
100%.
No, that's great, dude. Just well said overall, man. And I wish we could talk for longer. Maybe let's do this again. You know, if you got,
I would love to.
Yeah, if you got some time next couple of weeks, we can dive into a lot of topics. But for people that are just listening or watching, where can they find you on TikTok, Instagram, all that? And, you know, hopefully they can reach out to you.
Yeah. So my TikTok is I'm a crispy nugget. Yeah, weird username, but I made it a long time ago.
I love it.
Decided out of principle I wasn't going to change it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, or you know, follow me on Instagram. You know what I like? I like when people started to DM me asking me specific questions. And so like I'm not an expert, but I've gotten very good at experimentation on my lifestyle and other people's lifestyles. So DM me. My handle is Osama, OSAMAHQUE on
love
Instagram.
it. And I'll leave all of his links in the episode notes. But Osama, this was great, man. Again, I'll DM you after this as we close it out. But thanks so much for the time. I appreciate you. Stay nice and cool up there in New York.
Yeah,
and
we'll do. And
we'll
likewise,
talk soon.
I appreciate the time. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, man. Enjoy your week.
All right, take care.
Oh, hey there. I'm glad you made it to the end. Thanks for checking out this video. I'm sure you're going to like all the other podcasts that I've done. You could check out some more videos right here, whether you're watching on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. I would love you forever, even more than I already do. And tell a friend who needs to hear it. Until next time, we'll see you later. Peace.